this is where it's your chance to pick our brains. Does anybody have any questions about resources? We're going to pretty much leave it open.
I noticed that at the first part of the presentation, well, somewhere towards the middle, Estin said he preferred the Mac better than the Windows 7, which kind of took you back a little bit. You talked about how you like the computers, and I was just wondering which BrailleNote would you recommend out of the many BrailleNotes?
Out of the BrailleNote line,
Mm-hmm.
well, considering I'm not sure you can actually buy an Empower anymore, there's only one option, and that's the Apex. However, there are other note takers out there, okay? And the BrailleNote is just one of them, okay? If you've used a BrailleNote before, then you'll probably want to stick with the BrailleNote. It's very, very easy to learn and very easy to work with. The product from HIMS is called the BrailleSense Plus, and that is very much like Windows. You use the same kind of concepts as you would really in Windows, and so it makes a lot of sense if you're coming from a Windows laptop or a Windows machine type of environment. And then you have the PackMate, and it's based off of Windows Mobile, and it's basically actually it's a little bit of an older device, and it's very similar to Windows as well. I never really had any luck, to be honest with you, with the PackMate product line. So I'm going to see if Sanford had any luck with that line. Sanford, did you have any?
Well, I would say that in terms of difference between them, the BrailleNote is using Keysoft, which is a proprietary software package. So when files are saved in
KWB. It's Keysoft Braille files, basically.
Keyword Braille.
Yeah.
They're not, you can't open them.
With anything.
With anything else. I mean, you're stuck with your BrailleNote. If you have a BrailleSense or a PackMate, they have enough facility with Windows that you could.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the major differences there.
No, that's not to say that the BrailleNote is bad for that. You can easily translate the file to something that the Windows machine could read.
Right.
But the fact that you have to go through that step sometimes can put people off.
If you're in a situation where you have a choice of a number of devices, I think that they're all enough alike that the controlling factor would be, if I were starting over again and I wasn't a BrailleNote user and I didn't use Keysoft or KeyGold as my synthesizer, I probably would get a BrailleSense.
You know, I have the same thing. I have the same feeling. If I had the choice to completely start over, redo everything, and work with whatever product I would choose the BrailleSense. And the reason for that is they seem to be keeping it more up to date. A lot of you students are going to have a great opportunity if you end up going to the state school for the blind next week, because they actually have now all three products, and you can actually get a look at all three products before you actually buy them, which is always a good idea.
That's great.
If you can go to an Apple store and look at a computer before you buy it, if you can go to a Microsoft store, yes, they do exist, a Microsoft store, and look at a Windows machine before you buy it, or if you can go to KSSB and look at a note taker before you buy it, I would always recommend you do that, because especially with the note takers, they are super expensive, and if you're going to spend $5,000-6,000 on a machine, you want to make sure that machine is what you want and what you want it to do.
Okay, say that I was someone that was blind and deaf, and I came into and went to Stereo Tech and asked if I could use system access. how would you use system access if you were blind and deaf?
For a deaf-blind individual, there are certain tools you can use. They're called augmentative communication tools. They wouldn't be such as like system access. They would be a little bit more involved, I think. And I haven't done a lot of research on deaf-blind. I mean, I've not done a lot of research on deaf-blind communication yet. It's something that I am interested in, but the main thing would be that they possibly could use system access if they had some way of, if they were partially sighted, because they could use the magnifier. If they were totally blind and totally deaf, I'm not honestly sure what they would be
Well,
able
you've
to
got the
use.
Deafblind Companion,
Yeah.
which is based right now on the Empower. Do they have a version on the Apex? I would imagine they would have to.
Yeah, they would have to, because, but that's a HumanWare product, and
Yeah.
I don't know whether, I don't think it would work with system access on a
Probably
computer.
Or if you were to purchase a BrailleNote, where could you find one if you had to get one?
You could buy them from HumanWare. You can buy them from a distributor, and basically what a distributor is a company that gets the products and sells them to you. Our distributor in our area, for most people, is Nanohack, and you can get them from them, or you can get them from HumanWare in Canada.
Wow. What's that all about? Hey. Hey, yeah.
I was wondering, we were talking about how, like, there's the 40 cell Braille display, then there's the 18. Is there anything in between yet that's more like the, 30 or, something around there? Because, like Sanford said, you might not want one that was so long, but maybe you would want one that was so short.
Yeah, HumanWare has a line of products called the BrailleNote. And don't quote me on this, but I believe they have a 32 cell model. And it would make sense that they would have a 32 cell model because it uses the same technology that the Apex does. And so you do have that option. Most companies go 18, 20, 40, maybe 65, and then 80. And usually 65 is, you usually don't find that. Mostly it's 20, 40, and usually 80. Would you say that's correct,
I
Sanford?
think that, and the 80 is not 80 straight across, it's 2 rows.
Yeah, it's 2 rows of 40 cells. So it's not like, it's not,
Otherwise you
yeah.
would need
Your keyboard case to
clearance to go through the door.
They're quite large.
Take your guitar
You could use
case.
it, no, you could use it as a cane.
So,
Oh, Sanford.
yeah, you probably could.
Say somebody wants to use a BrailleNote because their vision's poor, what would you suggest? Which one would you suggest?
For a note taker,
Yeah.
you're going to be using it in school, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Get your hands on it.
my recommendation would be to get your hands on all 3 devices and see which one works better for you, because it's very difficult without knowing exactly what you're going to use it for to be able to tell you get this or get that.
Yes.
It's just, there's not really a good way of judging that. So that's what I would say. Just kind of get your hands on it.
The local distributor that you had mentioned earlier will do a consultation.
Correct.
So you can contact them and they'll be happy to come show you. They're goodies.
Yeah.
You're smarter than me.
Do we have another question?
Alright, this is one for Estin. When did you ever gain knowledge about the screen, about the new technology since you've been blind, like the screen reader and the backlight and all that stuff? Like, was that when you were first blind or recently?
How did I gain knowledge about this stuff?
Yes.
Oh wow, I could talk for an hour on just that.
Oh,
I won't.
You
I promise.
had to ask, didn't you?
I promise you I won't. But one of the resources I use for assistive technology is SeroTalk, which is through the Serotech Corporation, which is the company that makes System Access. And the reason I know about SeroTalk is because of System Access. I was subscribed to the System Access mobile network, and I saw different podcasts in there, and I was looking for one, and I saw SeroTalk in there. And I listened, and I thought it was interesting. And I gained a lot of my knowledge from that.
How about you, Terese? Where are you plugged into?
Where am I plugged into? I'm on email lists. There's, all of which escape me at the moment. I do a lot of podcasting. I listen to the news quite a bit. I just have been one of those that I've always been interested and jumped in. I got interested in it. My husband was an assistive technology person, and he taught me everything I know. And it just gave me a platform to start and grow from.
And actually, we kind of hoped he taught you everything he knew.
Yeah. We hope. We're still discovering that.
Now, I spend a lot of my time on internet lists that are dealing in the blindness field professionally. And when I get into technology questions, I call them. So if you call me, I'll call them, and then they'll call you, and we'll be able to answer your question.
The world goes round and
Round and round. Well, I guess that is all that we have for this episode.
Tips, tricks, and oops.
Thanks for joining us.